Warning, MF Uncensored contains adult language and discussion. Listener discretion is advised.
We're a couple of misfits. We're a couple of misfits. What's the matter with misfits? That's where we fit in. We're not Duffy and Dilly. Don't go around willy-nilly. Seems to us kind of silly.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to MF Uncensored. If you guys are listening to us on the go, you can find us on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and basically anywhere you get your podcast. As always, I'm one of your hosts, Paul. With me in the studio today is producer Melanie. Producer Melanie, how are you tonight?
I'm doing really great, Paul. How are you?
I'm doing so well. We just had dinner. It's time for our show. I'm psyched. It's a perfect Saturday for us. We're very excited. Very, very, very excited to talk to our guests tonight. Now, if you guys have been listening to us since we started, since our inaugural episode, our very first interview was with an author that I can honestly say his book has made a big impact on me. In fact, I wrote my first review ever about his book because I was so moved by it. And I wrote a second article, and he doesn't know this. I wrote a second article today where I talked about Finding My Why is the title of it. And it was inspired not only by this guy, but also another person that we spoke to that had a similar story. And I was just like, man, I am truly blessed and lucky because this show I've gotten a chance to talk to some of the most incredible people with the most incredible stories. And I'm not trying to toot his horn, but we have with us in the studio is making his return to the show, not only Neil Getzlow, but also his wife, Amy Getzlow. Neil and Amy, how are you guys doing tonight?
Hey, we're good. Thanks for having us on. We appreciate it. If I come on 5 times, do I get like a jacket like they give the Saturday Night Live hosts that come on 5 times?
We're working on merchandise, which is really funny. We were just talking about it right before we signed on. We're like, we should have shirts and stuff. We have shirts, but we want to make more stuff.
So it's funny you actually say that because in one of our shows, we made a joke about creating fanny packs for the show.
Really?
And the entire episode, because we kept making fun of one of our co-hosts because he said fanny pack, and so now that's our running joke. I want to get Misfit Faction fanny packs. That's the goal.
I mean, they're coming back, so.
Actually, I agree. I think they are coming back. There's a kind of a hipster pinball arcade in downtown Kansas City, and they give out fanny packs on Sundays to people. So awesome. It's all the younger people that do it, so not us.
It's weird because, Melanie and I have been married for a year and a half. We're 34 and 33, and now we're the ones going, man, those youngins with their hip new fashion trends.
You're not supposed to tell people my age, right?
Oh, I mean, she's 22? I can edit this. It's fine. We're not live. That's one of the joys. And obviously, it's fun because as a married couple, we're talking to another married couple. And I think that always adds a little something. Married couples bring a different dynamic when they talk to each other.
I think so.
You think so?
I think so. You guys have been married or you've been together for almost 10 years? Or is it more than that?
We've been married almost 10. We've been
that's what it
together
was.
almost 14. Yeah.
That's
incredible. Right.
That's incredible.
So great. Congratulations. That's awesome.
And
our 10-year anniversary is coming up in May.
Oh wow.
Any plans?
Yeah. No, we need to do something big though. I mean, I say it's 10 years, but honestly, it's probably really technically only going to be like the second anniversary because we were obviously, as you know, the story first, sorry, I didn't mean to hit you there. The first 8 years or so marriage were not the best of years. So, to know where we are today and know we're going to come up on 10 years is kind of cool. So we should do something.
Well, I think it's incredible. People, Neil, we interviewed you about 2 months ago, and people really resonated with that interview, not just because it was our first real full interview, but also because of the subject matter. And people appreciated that it is a sensitive subject, and it is a powerful subject. And like the best thing about it is you guys are celebrating 10 years of marriage now. It's incredible. Like, Melanie and I were going back through the book again before we got on air because we like to, have things fresh. And there were specific points I wanted to bring up. I know there are things Melanie wants to bring up, but I really wanted to say the most empowering thing is even before reading the book, I felt like it was going to have a good, happy ending.
And it does, and that's why we're being very public with our story because we want to give people hope and encouragement that no matter what you're facing as a husband and wife, or in any situation that you're going through, like there is a way out, and you don't have to give in to the things that are holding you back. Like I kind of joke, like if you're in a marriage and you're upset that your partner is not taking out the trash every week and not doing the dishes, like, you know what, it's going to be okay, because if we can survive what we've gone through, then there's absolutely a place for you guys to figure out how to take care of your chores.
Yeah. You know, when we did our first interview, there was something that Melanie and I both noticed immediately, and it's something that really I was thinking about too. When you started talking, because obviously our first interview was heavy. It was about, here's my book, here's what I went through, here's my story, here's where I am now, and here's my wife. And, you know, obviously the beginning of the book is a letter from you, Amy, to the reader, which I wasn't expecting, and it caught me off guard. But when Neil talked about you in our interview, he lit up. It was the most purest show of affection and love that we can possibly see, because you know, Melanie likes to make fun of me because she constantly catches me just kind of giving her the eyes, just looking at her, and then she'll yell at me, or she'll throw a pillow at me or something like that.
What are you doing? Why are you looking at me like that? He's like, just let me look at you and enjoy you. And I'm like, but you're staring at me. Like, it happened again right before I was adjusting the ring light, and I turned around and he's staring at me. I'm like, stop staring at me. Like, what are you doing?
But so it's not only is it a pleasure to actually, you know, meet you, and I've seen photos, I've talked to Neil about you, but can you kind of tell us a little bit about yourself? I feel like we don't know you that well.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not that exciting.
Oh my gosh. I'm going to say one more thing.
I was going to say, Neil could, I'm sure, I'd give a whole book about you. So it's, you know, this is your time to chat.
I'm used to this kind of stuff. I don't normally do this.
Well, I will say, Amy, I don't think sometimes doesn't think that what she did for our marriage was, worth all the fuss and attention that it, may come with it, or at least that I try to show in the book, and that I try to bring when I talk to people about it. But, as I've said before, her story is the most important piece out of all this, and what she did for me through her forgiveness. I'll never be able to pay that back, because it changed our life, and it changed our marriage. So now I'm going to talk about herself.
I know. Sometimes it's the hardest thing to do.
Well, yeah. I really don't know what to say other than, we've been together for almost 14 years, and I've been a hairdresser for like 20 some years, and I have 3 boys, and we have 5 together, and they're almost all adults now, and our lives are pretty boring.
I don't know if I would boring. Boring's not the word that I think of. It's weird because like we feel like we know you guys at a different level. Your book is exceptionally personal, and it tells a lot about you guys and a lot of how you view the world very differently. And you guys have been through a trauma. You guys have come back on the other side. Like, it changes people. Like, I'm sure Neil will agree that he is a different man because of everything that happened. Like, if you weren't there and you didn't react the way that you did and, push him to get better, he'd probably be in a different spot than he is right now. I mean, is that fair to say? Yeah,
no, I don't disagree at all. I definitely think so. I was married before to an alcoholic, and I definitely handled that situation differently than I did. And we're obviously not together anymore.
Obviously.
But I wasn't saved at that point either. But yeah, I had to humble myself a lot, because if I went by what I wanted to do, we probably wouldn't be here right now.
Mm-hmm. It's very easy to act out of natural reaction, right? Anger is the quickest one. It's the easiest one to fall victim to. Your anger, your pride, even, like you feel like, you're hurt and you're angry and you want justice. But, reading about you in the book, you went for forgiveness. But the thing I liked, and it resonated with me, and I wanted to bring it up, forgiveness, but still accepting the consequences. Mm-hmm. That was so powerful for me, because it wasn't like, a lot of a lot of women, and I don't want to speak for all women, obviously, but anybody who's in an unhealthy relationship, they'll sometimes overlook the flaws, and they won't challenge their partner to get better and make the relationship better. So for you guys, like, how do you inspire each other to be better? I mean, both of you, not just, one or the other.
I mean, I think a lot of it is just putting God in the center of our marriage, because, I mean, there's no way I can't rely on my own way of doing things, because I don't know. I just don't think God's got to be the center of it. Because if I leaned on my own understanding, it wouldn't be the same at all.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, for us,
like I said, I think a lot of it is just humbling yourself. Because if I went off my own reaction, just like when I had found out about what was going on, I mean, inside, I'm thinking all kinds of things.
And I would say, too, like, and that's what I try to be, is all I can be now is the best husband and the best father and just the best man of God that I could possibly be. And Amy inspires me to want to do that. She always jokes when I talk about her faith, because I always would say that my faith, her faith inspires me. And there was a time when I said that when I probably didn't really understand that or mean that. And she likes to make fun of me for that. But now, having gone, through sort of the same heart transformation that she did, her faith does inspire me, because she prayed for me for 8 years, for me to get saved, even though, and standing there, even though she couldn't quite tell what was going on, she knew something was happening though. And yet she still faithfully prayed and was persistent about it. And finally God listened.
There is nothing more powerful than a woman's intuition. It is one of the, I joke around with Melanie all the time. She always knows everything.
It's one of the most powerful things, and that's definitely something that comes, from God, the universe. That's just something you feel in your gut, you feel it in your bones, and you know something's going on. So to have the strength to just pray for your husband for 8 years, day in, day out, just I can't even fathom having that kind of strength, because you didn't know what was going on, but you knew something.
Well, I mean, I really did think he was cheating. And it was weird, because the very first time I started to notice anything, like in the morning when we wake up, like he looks at his phone, checks his emails and all that stuff. And I mean, I almost feel like God was kind of tapping me on the shoulder, like, hey, I'm like, I noticed that his phone was like turned away. I'm like, anytime I looked his direction, his phone was turned the other direction. And before, I used to like just flip through his phone, like he didn't care if I saw it or not. So that was like the very first, I guess, kind of red flag to me, like, that's odd. And then, it was just things like that. But then, sometimes I'd feel like, am I crazy and overthinking this? Like, I think I would try to just, tell myself, like, this doesn't necessarily mean he's cheating. But I just started to notice things over time, like him, like when he'd go out of town, when he'd come back into town, he would be like, oh, I'm going to go hang out with my friends or whatever. And before, it seemed like before that, he would want to make time to like hang out because he had been out of town. But it seemed like he had stuff going on all the time, or I'd be like, hey, what are we doing this weekend? And he'd be like, well, he's like, me and so-and-so are going to Lawrence to watch the KU game. And then, so he'd have all these plans going on. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, I've been here at home working on the house. Like, you've been gone like 3 or 4 days this week. And it became a weekly thing that he'd at least meet up with his friends like once or twice a week during the week. He started like a kickball league.
I just got the best visual in my entire life of Neil just playing kickball.
Yeah. So, I mean, he had all these things going on, which, I'm like, that's fine. But I mean, I couldn't barely get anything out of him. Like, he would text me during the day, like, what are you doing? And then, like, we would be like, what's for dinner? That would be like our whole conversation for the day, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I still text you what's for dinner, though.
Well, yeah, we still text.
It's the fight that never ends.
It's the ongoing conversation. So there was no connection really. It was just
going through the motions.
No, I mean, it seemed like he had completely. I mean, like, part of it was like, okay, well, I kind of expected it because, like after I got saved, things changed quite a bit. And so I figured, he's, we were used to going out all the time and drinking and, doing the usual stuff. And so that pretty much halted for me. And so he, carried on, like he wasn't going to stop doing that. So part of me was like, well, I mean, I guess I gotta expect that. But the red flags for other stuff started popping up,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, something's got to be going on, but I'm like, I have no proof. And then I think the other big thing is like his phone was always with him, like.
mm-hmm.
Even if I wanted to try to look at it, I noticed like he would really never leave it anywhere without, like he even took it to the bathroom with him. And I was like,
well, and everyone does that, but
I was about to say, in Neil's defense, I do too.
It was literally glued. It was attached to my hip. Like,
well, he was going to take a shower and I was just like, okay. And he's taking the charger too.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, okay. Because I know in the past, I'm like, he would just leave his phone on the charger, and go get ready. Like, why would he need to take his phone with him to the bathroom to get ready? And I even said something to him. I'm like, why are you taking your phone to the bathroom? I can't remember what you said, but I was just like, that's weird.
It's funny you say that because, like, my wife and I, we are very involved with social media and Facebook, and like it's part of what we do for podcasting. Like, she has her book page, which she's constantly like, creating videos or creating posts, and there are times where we find ourselves just literally glued to our phones in a very unhealthy way. And Neil you talk about it in your book, the accessibility of things on the internet, especially nowadays. It's horrible. I tried to do TikTok that was like my thing was TikTok. I wanted to start it for the podcast because a lot of podcasters use it. I went on TikTok and it was just like an onslaught.
Just video, and you just do this.
And I'm like, what? Why is it showing me these things? Like, and it's based off my phone algorithms and things that I've done in the past before, I was married and before, my wife and I, we've gone through our fair amount of, challenges and perseverances, and we, that's why we enjoy talking to, people like you guys who did it. Like, you guys are doing it. It's pretty awesome and like inspiring.
And you guys are actively putting in the work, and I think that's something that a lot of relationships, not just marriages, but relationships don't realize is that, after you get past the honeymoon stage, that's when you really start to see who the real person is. And that's when you both have to put in the work. So even if you have, certain desires or behaviors that you're engaging in prior to this relationship, you have to realize that like some things are unhealthy, some things are healthy, and you want to carry that into your relationship. Those unhealthy ones, though, if you bring them into the relationship, it can create a lot of complications, and it can create some damage, and sometimes that damage is detrimental to that relationship. But you guys are actively putting in the work, and your faith is a huge part of that. And I think a lot of relationships out there also lean on faith a lot. Paul and I are constantly talking about that and our faith and our belief systems and things like that. I was raised Catholic in a Catholic household. I went to Catholic school. I started to learn a little bit more about just Christianity as a whole, because there were certain things that I didn't necessarily agree with in the Catholic Church, but as a Christian I agreed with. And Paul was raised as a Lutheran, so we don't actively practice one specific religion, but I personally believe there's a God, there's
Higher power.
Higher power, the universe. There's so much more than what we see right here. I believe in the afterlife. My great-grandmother passed a year ago, last year, and I felt her presence with me at certain points, and I can feel her, just if I'm outside and the wind's blowing a certain way, I know, there's something more. And I think that even just having that conversation with your significant other is so important too, because if you're not on the same page, that also could create complications, which is something that we spoke about, and you mentioned in your book when Amy was saved, you didn't really go along with that, and you just, I'm sure that created a lot of friction in the house. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, like Amy said, before we got married, neither of us were believers. Amy,
I was a believer. Like, I believed in Jesus, but I didn't know him.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't. Well, I guess I did think about it, and it wasn't like a priority of mine. So I never really thought about it. I've read this book that basically scared the heck out of me, and that's kind of like where it started from. And then, it wasn't just that one thing, but then I realized that there's a difference in, believing in something and actually trusting in it and surrendering to it. And anyways, whenever I was trying to tell him about it, he definitely didn't react how I had hoped.
Well, she would play videos for me right before we go to sleep, and something like on people getting, hearing, trying to being evangelized on the street or something. And she'd play these videos off of YouTube, and I'd be just doing my best to fall asleep as quickly as I could, so I didn't have to hear it. Imagine, it's hard to, for me, as I grew up in a Jewish household, really was an atheist when this all went down. And, 3 months after we got married, Amy decides to tell me that she's gotten saved by Jesus. Now, again, imagine my reaction as a Jewish man who is not supposed to go anywhere near that story, on top of the fact that really, honestly, I didn't believe in it anyway. So, I'm thinking it's like that scene in The Wedding Singer when Adam Sandler goes, "This would have been good information to know yesterday." But yeah, so, and I did what a lot of people who are into their faith, I think what happens to them, they get persecuted. And really, that's what I did to Amy. I thought she was crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So I pretty much got that indication when I told her.
Yeah, I really thought she was crazy.
Well, I know. I was just I thought, I didn't think he was going to, think I was nuts, because I'm okay, we've been together for a while. I don't.
Mm-hmm.
But I did.
I don't do anything crazy. I'm a rational person, so.
Was this a conversation that you guys had together before? I can't imagine it was just kind of an overnight decision that you made. I'm going to go to church and I'm going to get baptized tomorrow. So was that something that you guys talked about beforehand at all, or?
Maybe, and again, this could be me as a not attentive husband, maybe didn't pay attention to the signs or see what was happening, but it came out, correct me if I'm wrong, it came out pretty much out of the clear blue sky. It just.
Well, yeah,
for
there's,
me,
yeah.
When I find out about you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's a transformation that happens. There's something that happens, and it's, you can't deny it. And then, I was trying to tell him about it. I didn't know how to explain it to him. I thought I thought he would be understanding at least, but I could definitely tell he thought I was crazy. And he was like, I gotta get out of here for a while. And I knew he was gonna go tell his friends that I like had lost my mind and I was crazy, which I pretty much got that. I mean, but he wouldn't read anything. He wouldn't listen to anything. That was a hard thing for me, because I'm like, I didn't expect him to like, give his life to Jesus because I did, but I thought, maybe he would want to understand or, know like what happened, or try to understand what happened, not just immediately assume I was nuts. So,
well, it's funny you say that, because one of my favorite parts in your book, Neil, is when you have favorite is a weird term for it, because I know but the chapter that I enjoyed the most, or the one that resonated the most with me, it was the chapter on shame and feeling ashamed, because I'll be honest, I related to it. I really did. And that's not getting into anything too crazy on my end, but it is one of the things that Neil and I connected on, where I had my own issues with self-control and self-esteem, especially because I didn't deal with a lot of my own personal issues, and it wasn't until, I don't necessarily like follow a religion, or I don't, I'm not like, God, Jesus, this. I do believe that Melanie was sent to me by somebody who knows way better than I do. And she's the one that inspired me to be better and to deal with my own personal issues and my own past trauma. And, again, that's why, like, sometimes it's a little interesting, the circumstances that you and I met, Neil, while I'm standing outside at a library, her favorite place in the world, waiting for her, dealing with our own issues, and I get a phone call from somebody like you. And it's just like, wow, if that's not a sign from some sort of higher power, I don't know what is. And Melanie and I joke that the universe always wanted to put us together. They just didn't know they just were waiting for the right time.
Well, we weren't ready.
Right.
Because I think if we had met any other time in our lives,
we came close.
A few times, but if we actually had met, I don't think we would be where we are today.
Right.
Because we had to go through certain experiences to get to where we were in order to appreciate each other. Do you guys, though, I don't want to keep talking about us, we're boring, but do you guys feel like where you are now, you can look back, even at this one point that we're talking about where, Amy was saved and you're, quick to be like, yeah, I can't talk to you right now. I got to go and tell my friends you're crazy because you made this, decision. Can you look back at that moment and laugh and be like, I can't believe I said that? Like, ugh, it's just so silly. Obviously, certain points you don't want to, but just how do you look back at each moment like that, and how does it feel to reflect on things? You're sharing a lot of personal moments with not just us, with the world and your book and everything. How do you navigate that?
Well, I do think that, I think we have gotten to the point now where I don't know if we'll ever be permanently like healed. Like I think there's always going to be that pain that's underneath that just will lurk and raise itself up every once in a while. But we have gotten to the point now where we can inject humor into the situation. Because I know, and I'm going to tell this, I'm sorry.
What?
Like when we're driving down the road and she'll see something like maybe maybe a hotel, and she'll be like, she'll look at me side eye. She's like, "You ever take anybody there?" And I'm just like, Amy, like, come on, like.
We were walking on a trail the other day, and I said that to anybody here.
I mean, she just. But I mean, that's that's a good sign that we can joke about that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say too, it is like every once in a while, at least for me, because I'm putting myself way out there and sharing some of this stuff. Like I just posted something on my Facebook yesterday about I was on another show, and the title on the screen was Neil Getzlow, sex addict, and it it hurt me to think that guy was that person. mean, that's my backstory. That's how I got here. But for a moment, I felt that shame again, and I felt embarrassed about it. But then I remembered very quickly, like that's not my identity anymore. That's not who I am. I found my identity in God, and that's the story that God gave me to break free from all that. And now I feel, that's why we're here talking about it, because I am compelled to share what, all that evil stuff I was doing. God gave me, he showed me the path. He lit up a path for me. I still had to walk the walk and walk it out. And he's not going to pull you. He's not going to, do everything for you. He'll show you the way out. And if it's up to you, if you want to take it.
And sometimes he doesn't even show you. He just like cracks open a door,
yeah,
or like moves a curtain a little bit, and you're like, "Oh, what? Let me just take a look over there and see." And he's really crazy with what he does.
And it's one of the reasons that I have a lot of respect for both of you guys. You guys, the easy thing to do would have been like, well, time to call it a day. But you guys, not only did you see this path, you walk down this path, and you're trudging along, and it's empowering. It really is empowering. I know, like Neil and I, in our last, you were bringing up some of your future plans, and I said, man, people need to hear your story. People need to hear it. Like when I think Neil Getzlow, I don't think sex addict. I think someone who overcame it. It's crazy to, people write off addicts all the time, and addict is such a damaging word, and people don't realize it because it has such a negative connotation to it. But like, for you to take it and make it into something empowering and make it into a message, it's pretty cool. And it's pretty inspiring, not only to me, who, like, I'll read your book back and forth, turn it upside down, read it again, and hope for a sequel. Hint, hint, wink, wink. But like, I found so much joy just writing my review about it. Like, I started the review before I finished the book because I was just so moved, and I was like, I could have done a dissertation on each chapter.
Well, I appreciate that, and yeah, and my story obviously is important for men out there, or for anyone who's suffering from an addiction. To I hope that it illuminates some things that you can do to take steps. But like, as I will say every day, like, the key to it was Amy. Like, the forgiveness that she learned from Jesus is the forgiveness she gave me, and it was that forgiveness that unlocked this new life. And like I've said before, like, that forgiveness was important, but it didn't absolve me of any sort of responsibility or accountability that I needed to take on my own end to get my mind right, and to fix things and actually show that I am a changed person.
And I don't know I'm sure part of me, I had so many things going on in my mind, and, I'm not sure if my heart was there yet, but I knew, like, I needed to forgive him. I felt like I was being prepared even before any of this happened, which was weird. There's a couple that come to our church to speak. She had been unfaithful and became pregnant. They're giving their testimony about their marriage and what had happened, and they were talking about the power of forgiveness. And then my pastor had a sermon on the importance of forgiveness. And even at the time, I just felt like I was supposed to hear that message. And then we were praying about, because our church is real big on raising money for human trafficking and stuff. And we were praying for, the men that are seeking it out. And I just remember even thinking, I was praying for my husband during that too, not even realizing that he's, like, part of it. And also, like, I look back and I think, part of me wishes that it didn't take so long for me to find out. And it was very hard at times, because it was almost like I knew he was cheating. I just had no proof. And so I don't know. I look back at that, and I feel frustrated at times, thinking, like, I knew it just had no way to prove it. And, I think of different scenarios of like what I could have done to like maybe find out or something. But I know that if it would have happened any other way, I just don't think we'd have the same outcome.
Yeah, I agree.
So an interesting question that I know Neil and I spoke about it, but I wanted to hear your perspective, Amy. So you guys, obviously, you have a very religious outlook on life. You have a very strong faith in God, in your marriage, and having God at the center of your marriage. For people that aren't religious, do you think that this story still can resonate with them? And what do you say to the people who are like, well, I'm not religious, so I'm not interested in hearing it?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think for non-believers, yeah, I mean, I don't know how I'd explain that.
Well, I remember what you said to me, which is, what do you have to lose?
Yeah.
Because if Amy is wrong and I'm right as a non-believer, then okay, then we're all done when we die. But if Amy's right and I'm wrong, then I have everything to gain.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And
well, and even too, like I just, when I found out the second time, I was like, I just don't say I could possibly stay with him. I'm like, I tried to get him to, tell me everything the first time, still not knowing how I was, how things were going to turn out. But I'm like, you need to let me know everything now. I was like, because if you lie to me now, I'm like, there's no way I could ever, believe anything that you have to tell me. And so I was skeptical after I found out the first time, because I was just like, well, I've been thinking for so long that something's going on, so you can't tell me that this is the first time. So I just kind of kept my mouth shut, and I was like, I'm going to find out one way or the other, like something else is going on here.
Mm-hmm.
So I ended up finding out, and I, my mind is racing, thinking like, I can't stay married to this person. I mean, he's like lied to me from the very beginning, and I don't even know who you are. He's got like a completely different life going on. And I mean, I wasn't sure like who I thought he was cheating with, but I had no idea that it was like all these people. So I mean, honestly, I didn't see how we could possibly stay together. But in a way, I mean, we didn't have a choice in staying together at that time, because I couldn't work. My work was closed, and he was, he worked from home. So we're basically stuck together. And I also was thinking, like my youngest son doesn't finish with school, and this is going to turn his whole life upside down. Like, what am I going to do with that? And I've also like tore up half of the house, so we can't even sell the house right now. So I told him, I was just like, I'm like, we can't stay together if you don't ask God for help. I'm like, I don't see there's just no way we could stay together. I'm like, look, I mean, we our lives are completely different now. I'm like, there's just no way you can put these two things together and make it work. So either you need to, ask God for help, or this is pretty much over, because I couldn't see any other way of that happening.
And that's what I did as a non-believer, as this was all going down over the 6 weeks in spring of 2020. When I first got exposed in that hotel room in Chicago, I still, I thought, okay, I got caught, but I'm still going to have this double life that I'm leading. I had no intention of giving that up, at least, and so I had to, I just got to the point, like, I think if there are non-believers that are listening, like at some point you're going to get to that moment in life where you're at the bottom of the pit, like, and you need a helping hand to get up. And for me, I asked God for help. I mean, that was what I did. And I also want to make it clear too, like I said, God showed me the path, that I had to take some of those steps myself. And I also had to make sure that we talked to a professional counselor. We got some outside help, which made a huge difference. I mean, obviously God gave us a lot of outside help, but we still needed to work through some things. And so that taking care of yourself mentally is so important, especially nowadays. There's a lot of anxiety and worry out there. And, and I'm a big proponent of eliminating all the junk food of your mind and getting your mind right and getting, so we got rid of Netflix. We got rid of cable TV. I stopped watching sports for a long time, although it's come back just a little bit. But we really replaced all that stuff that was taking us away from God, taking us away from each other, and filled it up. Now, fill it up with, going to church, reading the Bible, praying together, but then also now spending time together. And there was a point where I wanted to spend as much time away from Amy as I possibly could, to a point now today where I want to spend as much time with her as I possibly can. And I never thought I'd get there.
But I never thought that he would be reading the Bible.
No.
Which, I never thought I would be reading the Bible,
Mm-hmm.
before, I had absolutely no interest, I had no interest in going to church, had no interest in reading the Bible, it does, you're transformed, you're a different person, you have different desires, I would not willingly on my own want to do these things.
Mm-hmm.
So, and just before, after I found out the first time that he was cheating, and he told me, I'm 99.9% sure that I would never be a Christian. I remember driving to work thinking, oh my gosh, am I wasting my time here? I'm is this my out? Is this, because there were times where I was just I don't know how much longer I can do this. I'm I'm already alone. I might as well be alone. And I was just give me an out here. I know I can't get divorced because, I'm not happy at the moment. But yeah, there were times where I was just kind of I just kind of give up. I'm you can't make a marriage work by yourself. So
I like that. That is.
Yeah. It's true though. So what I think Paul might have another question for you, but I'm gonna jump in because I'm really curious. So you guys are actively. Sorry.
I love it. No, do it. Come on, you got this.
You guys are actively working together to strengthen your relationship with each other and God. What are just some things that you do throughout the week to work on yourselves as a couple, to strengthen your relationship with God?
Yeah, so we every night, almost every night, unless we fall asleep early, we will we'll listen to the Bible every night before we go to bed. We try to hang out in the evening as much as we can with each other, and it gets hard sometimes, but you got to find the time to just be with each other and just kind of spend that downtime with each other. Obviously going to church together every week. And also, I think one of the, most important things that we try to do is we kind of have this, ever since this all went down, we have this new circle of friends that we've sort of grown into. And so getting to spend time with them and they give us encouragement and hopefully we give them some encouragement too. And so, I guess I look back on it because I was such an absentee husband. I was putting zero effort, okay, maybe 1% effort into the marriage. So it's almost like you put that effort into it, you're gonna get some fruit out of it, right? It was pretty easy. If I just started actually paying attention to Amy, listening to Amy, talking to Amy, having a conversation with her, and listening to her, it makes such a huge difference. And since we're being completely honest here, right, we'll have to say our romantic life is stronger than ever, right? And so that is such an important part of a marriage, is having a healthy relationship emotionally and physically as well. And that's, I think those are the keys.
That's awesome.
Great.
Fun fact, you did steal my question, and that's actually where I was too. So
good.
We constantly joke that we actually have one brain, and it's just something that and a lot of married couples, I'm sure you guys do too. One person's thinking it, the other person says it, you're like, oh no, that's what I was gonna say. But I'm just I'm sitting here with chills and goosebumps just because this is powerful stuff, and it's not easy stuff, and I think that's that's the most important thing. Like if you guys are listening to this, when we release it, or watching the video when we post it, just remember, like, I think the most important thing, and I think the thing that I resonate the most with, is you're not alone. And a lot of people think that they are. And it's really, Neil, I know you mentioned in your book that feeling of being alone. I guess I'm meant to be alone. Especially for men. Men do not get the amount of support that they need. They're taught to tough it out and to rub some dirt in it and move on. And then for women, the power of forgiveness and the power of keeping your significant other accountable. Like this is incredible stuff. And just like, I'm honored to be sitting, like, it's sorry, I'm getting like all like flustered just because to be on a show where such a powerful message and such genuinely good people. Like I'm not trying to blow smoke, but like, you guys are just good people, and it resonates off the two of you. And there's a lot of love and a lot of affection and a lot of just great energy between the two of you. And just, you can tell that you guys have been through it, and you're kicking butt, and you keep working. I think that marriages a lot of times get complacent. People get, this is what I do. This is the thing that I do. You guys are pushing and making yourselves better. And it sounds like you're also surrounded by a group of people that encourage it, which is really incredible. So
for sure. And I do think too, like, it is, I want to make it very clear too, like, it's not perfect and it's not easy. Like, it's far from it, right? Like, even though we've had this great story and we've had this huge transformation, there are still days where I think one of us are not on the same page, maybe, or we're, just feeling down. And I think that's where you learn from your past, where so much where I have this feeling and these anxiety, and I would, obviously act out in ways that were not healthy and leave Amy out of, any of the conversation about it. Now, if I'm feeling that way, I can turn to reading the Bible, or, spending time with Amy and talking about what's going on. And I think that's how we're able to better manage, I think, the ups and downs a little bit, just because we saw the valley for sure and have come out the other side. So
there's times where I can tell something's wrong with you. I mean, I could tell things were wrong with you before. So I just couldn't get anything out of you before. Now, like, sometimes I kind of have to pry it out of them a little bit. They're like, oh, it's just stupid. I'm like, so just tell me.
And I do, and I feel better.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's, again, it's not like I don't think we're exposing like the revolutionary thinking here. Yeah, I feel like it's all pretty,
it's
like,
pretty basic.
Yeah. Of a relationship, but you've got to act it out. You've got to put in, the work, and you've got to be committed to it.
I think the other thing too with the forgiveness, and if you're gonna make your marriage work, like, you can't like throw their past in their face. You know what I mean? Like, that's part of the forgiveness, is you're not trying to seek revenge on somebody, and you're not trying to be like, hold it over their head. I mean, it's like, if you do that, I mean, you're just like festering up like bitterness and anger and hatred towards the other person. Really, I don't see how you can like move forward if all you can do is like, bring it up all the time. Well, you did this, so therefore, I can do this to you. It's just, I think that's something I had to make a decision on, is like, it'd be easy for me to say some hateful things to him and remind him of the things that he's done, but that's
kind of did.
I joke.
The way at the beginning, like, rightfully so, right? Like, I mean, when this is all going down, there was definitely some raw emotions there, but I think that is definitely one of the things I appreciate is, I mean, she truly forgave me. Again, it doesn't take away any of the pain or the hurt, for sure, but she doesn't.
Well, I would say, like, I didn't do it in a revengeful way, though.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? No, like, I would say I was hurt like the most, like, and then maybe the anger came later, like more of the anger came later. And I was just kind of like, like, you didn't think of these things or whatever, but it was just like, I was kind of getting it out, but it wasn't like I was trying to
be vindictive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, I think it's also a part of the process of healing. You're going to go through these emotions, and there's stages of it. There's stages of grief. There's going to be a little bit of anger. There's going to be, there's going to be shame. But at the end of it, there is forgiveness, and I think that's the most important thing. Is you're not doing too well right now in this moment, but you have to work through it, and it's going to take some time, and just one of the biggest things, like for any of our challenges that we had, was the constant reminder, like, give yourself some grace, give him some grace. Like, just, we're both not going to get it right all the time. It's not always going to be 50-50. Some days he's going to give me 60 to my 40, and sometimes I'm going to give 10 and he's going to give 90, and vice versa. And there's always going to be that ebb and flow to the relationship, but not getting angry at each other for that, and not really just being conniving and holding things. Amy, you said holding on to that is only going to end up hurting you in the end.
Right.
Yeah, and I think, and I can't remember where I saw this. I came across this quote, but it's basically like, giving someone grace when they really don't deserve that grace can be a powerful healing tool. And I think that's what Amy gave me. She gave me that grace, even though I did not deserve it in any way, shape, or form, but she still offered it to me. Mm-hmm. And it was powerful.
Again, chill, stop. All of you, God. So, speaking of...
Well, I mean, it's not like anything special that I'm doing. I mean, it's you're doing the... Well...
This is what I'm talking about when she is very humble about...
Well, I'm just doing... I mean, like, as a Christian, you're supposed to do what Jesus did, He, like, forgave me even when I didn't deserve it.
Mm-hmm.
And he had grace, like, even when I didn't earn that and I don't deserve that.
But how many people are going to actually walk that out and live that, right? I mean, I don't know. I mean, so in a case like this, I don't know. And I think, I don't know.
Well, I mean, I think people that, are, wanting to do what Jesus wants us to do, we'll do it.
People can say that, but when it comes down to actually acting on
maybe it's partly my upbringing, because my dad was just like, just suck it up.
Oh, that's funny. But it goes back to, like, it's easy. It's so easy for me to say, I can do this when the time comes, but then the time comes. And suddenly I'm like, maybe, I don't think I can do this. But, you guys talked about bringing up the past. I would really like to ask you, because we are running a little short on time, our favorite question to ask at the end of any interview. What's the future? Where are you guys going? I know, Neil, you and I have kind of talked off air a little bit. So what's next for the Getzlows?
It's a great question. I think we're still trying to figure it out. I think Amy would probably like to go back to anonymity, but I'm not going to let that happen, because I think we have too much. When I have the opportunity to talk about our story and share it, especially when I'm with Amy, I get encouraged, even though it's rehashing a lot of stuff that isn't pleasant, but I know what happened on the other side, so it brings me encouragement. So Amy still has to sign off on these, but I know that we've talked about, can we write a book, part 2, which is her telling the same story, but from her point of view, because I think she has a lot of insight to bring on how to deal when you've been, when someone's been sinning against you in a really ugly way. How do you break free from that, and how do you forgive someone? And I think there's a podcast out there for us. I don't know, maybe, but we'll see. Amy's, not the biggest fan of that idea, but again,
I don't mind sharing our story. I like sharing it. It's just
and I think that's like to, again, hey,
I'm not a public speaker.
Oh, I know. But it'd be great. Hey, look, it'd be great to sell a ton of books, but that's not the purpose of what we're doing here. Again, the purpose is to just let people know, like, we're just because we're just two regular, like completely regular, anonymous people in the world, and yet this thunderbolt hit us and this miracle happened. So, like, if it happened to me, and if it can happen in our marriage, it can happen to you. And so that's why we gotta keep talking about it.
That's awesome. And you know what, Amy, just so you know, producer Melanie over here did not want to do podcasting either. and she is one of the best interviewers that I've ever worked with. And that's not
I
me.
also get really uncomfortable when I do them. That's why I sit here and I can't really move,
She-
or I'm always fidgeting, or I'm like accidentally
I know,
hitting
it's
my
like, I
arm
don't
on
understand.
stuff.
I was like, because I'm going to be rocking back and forth because I do that anyways.
I'm in a chair that swirls, and I have my feet up so I don't swirl around.
Sorry,
But
You did good.
I get really nervous too. So it's
but
never
then,
tell.
but then you
Yeah.
do it and you kill it. It's the fun. It's so funny. So
Yeah.
I can totally see the two of you at some point doing some sort of
I
interview.
just enjoy talking to people and hearing their stories
And
because
that's the point.
everything
I love
is
it.
just so everybody's so interesting and everyone's story is so different. And you can, we can say like, oh, we relate to some things, but it's still two completely different stories, You'll never really get someone's perspective 100%.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
Yeah.
love it. But for those of you guys who are listening, if you guys are interested, you can go to neilgetzlow.com to get a copy of his book. We have our copy here in the studio. Oh, and look at that. Always has it prepared.
There it
I
is.
love it.
Yeah.
casually.
We did the Instagram Live the other day, and same thing. You just out of nowhere.
Mine right there.
Yep.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Product
If you
placement.
go to neilgetzlow.com, you can buy the book there. I'll give you an autographed copy. I'll even get Amy to sign it too. And I think we can still use the free ship code to get free shipping. And we're also donating $5 for every book sold to Run to Stop It, which is an organization fighting against sex trafficking across the U.S. So it's an important organization. So we'd love the support.
Yeah.
And we just appreciate you guys giving us so much love and chance to share our story.
Oh, we are honored. We really are. If you actually go to our website, you are the #1 affiliate on our page. So if you go to our affiliates page, the very first thing you're going to see is a copy of is a picture of Neil's book, information about it. You can click on it. You can buy it straight from our website. You can actually go through us if you're checking out podcasts. You can also find my review up there. I had a blast writing it. I think I'm going to have to do a follow-up at some point. Just because, like, already I'm sitting here going, man, I didn't put this in the review. I didn't say this. I didn't do that. And we're definitely going to want to get you guys back on the show at some point because I feel like it's just, even though the interview, like, people were going to be like, isn't the interview just going to be the same? It feels totally different the second time. And I feel like not only because we've grown from reading the book and gotten to know you, but also to experience talking to both of you. We were so excited.
Yeah.
So
Well, hopefully now we definitely have to work on the second book just to make sure we have something new to talk about again.
we'd love that. We would love to be a part of that process as always. So thank you guys for taking the time out. Again, it's a Saturday night. It's 9:00 at night. We're wearing our pajamas. You just can't tell. But thank you guys for taking some time and really just chatting with us and being, real and uncensored and all that stuff. It was great.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You guys
Thank you
enjoy
so
the rest of your
much.
night, all right?
All right, you too.
Thanks.
That was fantastic.
That was wonderful. I'm so happy Amy was able to join us this time.
Oh no, it was so powerful to have her involved and hear her story, and man, I'm like again chills.
But see, there's still so much more that I want to know.
Well, I guess we're gonna have to do another interview with them.
We probably will.
I'm gonna have to email Neil.
I also would love to see if Amy writes a book.
I want to read it. I want to see.
I feel like she has so much to offer, and she's just so wonderful. She's humble, and she's funny, and she's just lovely.
Yeah.
Just lovely.
And you could tell like she was doing something out of her comfort zone, but still giving it 100%. Like Neil had told me beforehand that like she doesn't usually do these, but like we wanted to, and I know you and I spoke about wanting to. So big thank you to them guys. Like seriously, even if you're not looking for something super religious or anything like that, the book is fantastic. It is a good read. It's not a long read. The chapters move very quickly.
At the end of each chapter, there are questions, so you are able to kind of reflect on what you read and really just absorb the content. And there is a lot of reference to God and to Jesus, but I think regardless of what your beliefs are, you still are able to take something from this book.
Absolutely. And for me, like, it was helpful because I would read the chapter and I would skip the questions the first read through, and then the
Really?
second read through I would do the questions just because it gave me time to
Yeah.
process. So there are lots of ways to read this book and enjoy this book. And man, again, this was fantastic. We really want to thank Neil for taking the time out. And we want to thank you guys for listening. I really hope you guys enjoyed it. If you guys want to learn a little bit more about us, you can go to our website, themisfitfaction.com. There you'll find links to all of our different podcasts, not only this one, but also Multiverse Fancast, Cinematic Adventures, and also, just so you guys know, we have now joined something called Podbean's affiliate program. Now, the affiliate program is a way to share podcasting with other people. So if you're interested in creating your own show, you can actually go to podbean.com/misfitfaction and get a free month of podcasting on us. So if you guys are interested, you can do that. If you guys are looking to actually sponsor the show, you can do that too if you go to sponsorship.podbean.com/misfitfaction. So if you're a fan of the show and you want to advertise with us or advertise on other podcasts, you can use our code and you'll get a discount on your first month of advertising. I believe it's $100 off. So
That's pretty nice.
Pretty cool stuff. And if you want more Melanie, because everybody wants more Melanie, you can find her Instagram page, her Bookstagram page, Bibliophiles Assemble on Instagram. She's doing hand motions even though it's a podcast and it's audio.
Oh, I thought we were still recording the video.
No, it awkwardly stops.
Well, now I'm a little embarrassed.
Well, then we're going to end the show. As always, I'm Paul.
I'm Melanie.
And we'll see you guys next time.